Second.
Okay, can we have voice vote?
I'm sorry, what?
Voice vote?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, you can do a voice vote to come back.
Yeah, we're ready. Oh, we did the whole second. I think David did a motion and then Amber. Second?
And this is just all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, may we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now we're going to move to the public participation, and for our first up, we are going to move into a public hearing about the Dora expansion. May we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have provided council with an application for our Dora, and the only change is we're adding 4 city blocks. We're increasing the boundary, and that's really about all I can share with you on this. Everything else remains the same with our Dora. So once council adopts this, assuming council is in favor of this, later in the meeting we have a resolution on the agenda to accept the application that I submitted, that we advertised. And if council does adopt that resolution, then we'll submit it to the Division of Liquor Control, and they'll issue licenses for folks that are in this new boundary. We had, I think, 3 permits. 2 of the locations are not built out yet, so wouldn't affect them. And but this is primarily about increasing the boundary to the west, 4 city blocks. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the public might have, or the council, for this public hearing.
Any public comments? Seeing none, council discussion? Seeing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we're going to move to public comments. Anyone wishing to address council about items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda may please come forward at this time. And make sure to state your name and address if you'd like to speak, and you have 5 minutes. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. May we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Are there any items to be removed? All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
All opposed? No items to be removed. So we'll move on to our first resolution. Can we have a motion? Oh, do you want to read that?
A resolution approving an amended application for a designated outdoor refreshment area and establishing a designated outdoor refreshment area in the city of Oxford, Ohio.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
All right.
So as I said earlier, this is about increasing the boundary, 4 city blocks. It's basically from Beach to Elm Street, so including the blocks, 2 blocks north and the 2 blocks south.
Okay, any public comments? Seeing none, council discussion?
I had a question. When we approved the resolution just to open the Dora year-round,
Yes.
there was a statement that said that the Dora could be suspended by the city manager if there were any issues.
Yes.
And then here, there's language that sounds more like with council approval.
Yeah.
Are those in conflict with each other?
Not really. The original one said the same thing, but I guess I wanted to assure the public that if we did have problems, which I don't anticipate, I reserve the right to suspend it, but I would probably ask council for some authority to do that.
Okay.
So I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Can you
you also just answer the question what this means for the community arts center? Because they're the anchor at the other end of Uptown, but they're not a business establishment like one of the permit holders. So what does it mean for their operation and property?
Well, I think what it means is that someone could walk to the Community Arts Center with a Dora cup and enjoy it there. Now, they don't have a liquor permit. They could maybe get one later. I don't know if one's available, but so they can't sell liquor there, and they wouldn't be able to distribute our Dora cups. But you know, someone could walk there, with a cup. Now, of course, just north of the city, the Caroline Harrison building will be coming online, and there'll be a restaurant in there. In fact, one of the liquor licenses was issued for that, but it's not built out yet. And then, of course, we have the Princess Theater, which now, former Princess Theater, there's a plan to build it out, and so there'll be a liquor permit there. So about the only additional one would be Jeepers, I'm trying to think. Fonchen, yes, thank you. Yeah, but she doesn't plan to participate, at least when I last spoke to her. So, you know, it's basically just increasing the boundaries so that folks can walk to the Community Arts Center.
So I guess it would be nice over time as we kind of evaluate how the program's working, because they do kind of have public open space that's kind of akin to our park, and so just how their experience with it goes.
Yeah.
would be nice
Well,
to
they
know.
desired that early on. They had asked us to consider that, and so that's part of the reason that we're doing this.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes. So for our second resolution, Heather will read that.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to request proposals from design consultants to create a land use architectural concept and infrastructure design plan for the Western Knolls property.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Sam?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. You may have heard about this before or recall discussing in work session, or if you're on council at the time in 2020. There was an attempt to sell some of the land, the city's Western Knolls property, we call it, across from the bowling alley on Oxford Riley Road. And that did not work out at this point, and we're not sure that it will. The Episcopal Retirement Services project, if you recall, did not get funded in the approval list from Ohio Housing Finance Agency. It did go through Planning Commission and through council in the preliminary stage and was approved, but it was contingent upon tax credit funding through the state agency. And so it's not clear whether that will move forward. We haven't yet met with them to see what their next step is, whether they will request an extension or not. But in lieu of that, based on the work session discussion that we had early June together with council, this was one of the ideas that came out of the discussion about potentially spending American Rescue Plan funding. And so in order to determine how much that would be, we would need to do a request for proposals or an RFP to advertise to recruit a qualified consultant in order to do what we have called in the past a master plan, but this would be more detailed than a typical master plan if you decide to move forward with it, which would be concept planning, architecture concepts, and also the full engineering as well. And so what that would do would help lay out how the 47 acres would be designed so that if a developer or housing company wanted to move forward with a section of it, that pre-engineering work would already be done, and that would not prevent them from coming through the whole planning process, but it would at least take that step and get it out of the way to align with the housing goals that City Council has. So that's what this is about, and we would come back with those responses if they're successful and bring it back for discussion again. Thank you.
Any public comments?
Amy Shaman, 11 Heather Ridge Court. Thank you, Sam. I am wondering if it is possible if council and the city would consider that when the RFP goes out to not only make sure to include minority businesses and firms, but also to encourage people to consider planning for affordable housing. I remember when the Episcopal, I'm not remembering the whole proper name, complex was considered, one of the things that was discussed is that that would be offer an option of senior housing that was more affordable than some of the other options currently available. So I'm wondering if that is appropriate to be in the RFP and if it can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi there, Kevin McKeon, 2126 Dana Drive. Been a while since I've been on this side of the desk, but have a few questions, comments, and concerns if you'll bear me out. Questions, feel free to answer via email, please. I'd appreciate that. Don't expect them tonight, of course. I guess first comment is between what was nearly the illegal charrette 2 or 3 years ago and tonight's resolution. It appears that we're seeking an answer that fits a goal that's already been figured out, but you're looking for a way to fit it into the round peg into a round hole rather than a square peg in a round hole. So I certainly hope that's not the case, but I've never heard of a community coming up with a development plan and then asking developers to fulfill it. It's usually developers that work together with the city to fulfill a plan, as you're well aware. My other concern is the number of 300 units. I'm not sure how that's going to be fit into R1B property. If you're going to have roads, sidewalks, paths, retention, etc. I came up with approximately 273 lots if you didn't include anything. I would hope we're going to have roads, sidewalks, retention, and maybe paths. So that number should be way under 300 unless we're going back to a similar zoning which resulted in the litigation, which resulted in where we're at now with owning the property. The third paragraph alludes to reducing costs for developers of this property. How? Are we going to start paying for sewer and well, our water and improvements? If we choose to do that, will that open us up to potential lawsuits from other developers who have not been given such positive attention? Keep that in mind. Litigation is what ended us up with this. We really should be trying to market it at a fair market price, not try to recoup our losses from the settlement. And that's about it for me. I appreciate your time. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, council discussion?
Can I ask a question, Sam, just for clarification? I mean, what we're paying for here is going to be both, not just a plan in the end, but also a process to get us from kind of like, so far we've had conceptual planning, but can you talk about what the steps might be? And so, for example, what level of engagement would there be for stakeholders, neighbors? So we get from, what would ultimately be like engineering drawings of the way this thing's gonna come out.
Sure, our plan was to include in the scope that we would ask for the proposals to be submitted would include engagement with the community. And so it would be dependent upon what the consultant's style of engagement, whether it's in person, multiple meetings, it's online. There's a variety of different ways now with the various technology that can be done. Yes, that was our plan to do that. And there could be multiple iterations of that as well in order to include the different comments. Ultimately, it would be adopted by City Council what the final plan would be for that area. And then there wouldn't be any, it's not intended that there would be a planning commission or City Council approval of a actual developer's plan. So that would come back later as part of the typical process. So what this would do would essentially be a sub-area plan that would include engineering that would already be completed. And it would include engagement.
So in terms of moving from concept to schematic to design, sorry, is this something that a subcommittee of people, staff, or who do you imagine work is going to help shape those goals about what we want the property to be? I mean, the consultant will provide the expertise, but
Sure.
sort of the vision of how we want the property to come out is kind of...
That would be, there would definitely be staff and consultant involvement, and it depends on how the proposal is written. And oftentimes there's a steering committee that's involved before the engagement to help prepare for the engagement. But it would depend on how that proposal works out with the various consultants. So that is one option, correct?
Well, I'm all in support of it. I mean, I think that planning, to Mr. McKeon's point, I mean, I don't think there's an end goal, and we have some values that are guiding us. And, you know, I think we have sustainability goals, we have housing diversity and affordability goals. We also want to optimize the site so that we can get the best use from it. And so I think those are some of the things we've articulated, but I think specifying what that means on a piece of property and how you would engineer that that's going to be a process. But I think ideally at the end, we've got a good design that accomplishes our goals and hopefully builds some consensus, you know, community-wide and with the neighbor engagement along the way. So I think it's worth I'm in a planner, but I think it's worth investing in planning because it's not just the plan, it's the process of decision-making that helps you get there. So I'm all in support of this. I think it's going to be a good investment of money.
When I had a couple questions. First of all, when I saw the 300, I suspected it would raise some eyebrows. But I mean, that's a range, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that is what the city or the developer would go for.
No, that's just on the absolute upper end. It doesn't
density.
come with any of the design. And Mr. McKean is absolutely correct. When you do the engineering and the design and you consider the topography, the natural resources, all those things, it's very common for that number to come down. That's purely the maximum R1B with the 10% increase. It's not.
It's based on acreage too, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's based on acreage.
It is. It's based
So,
on acreage. Yeah.
And like Sam has just said, there's a lot of land that will not be able to be utilized.
Yeah, we have steep slopes, you have mature woodlands, you have, if not wetlands.
And you're gonna
you
have to have roadways,
Yeah,
and
so-
utilities, so.
But it should be ultimately quite beautiful. I hope it adds, I mean, it should really add value to the city of Oxford, if well planned.
One of the, I'm sorry.
You go on, because the other question I had, I think, might be for Jessica.
One of the things that I think will be interesting to get out of this is how, I think if this were to go forward, how to actually determine a realistic pro forma with the plan, because I think that has been one of the disappointments that we've seen as the Planning Commission has worked to try to get a variety of housing within a single development that has been of a size that's too small to have a variety of different housing types and income sectors that it's trying to address. So like that's going to be one of our goals is can we have the type of variety within this size of property to address some of the housing needs while still being reasonably at least profitable in order to be able to build the project and at least have enough profit for it to be rentable and sellable. And so I think that's making it practical is what we're also looking for too.
And then when we had our ARPA work session, we talked about using funds to like purchase residential property in town and commercial property. Were there specific funds set aside for this? And can you refresh me on what that number is?
So what we were talking about in the work session back in early June was around $900,000 for a nonprofit housing partner. And that partner would essentially be, that we haven't brought that forward yet. But what that partner would do would be able to purchase some housing, and they could potentially connect with Western Knolls and actually being able to own and manage some of that as well. That's not part of this necessarily, but it's an entity that we don't have in Oxford at this point.
Well, and then we'll have specific legislation for council to vote on when we do certain items.
And in the American Rescue Plan work session, we did set aside $50,000 for this. This vote tonight is not for that budget amount. This vote tonight is for your permission to even do the request for proposals. And then once we get the responses, we don't know if 50,000 is enough. We'll come back to you with what the proposals are and say, this is where we're landing. Like, what do we want to invest in? So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes. We'll move on to third resolution.
A resolution approving the creation of a new fund, number 430, Opioid Settlement Fund for the One Ohio Opioid Settlement.
Have a motion to adopt.
So move.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you. This is to set up the fund for the city manager and finance director to be able to create the new fund. And it's a special revenue fund, 430. And it's for the receipts and expenditures in accordance with Exhibit A. And that's part of what was provided by the Ohio One Group And that's just the different things that you can use the money to spend on. So we wanted to include that so you got an idea going forward of what that money's actually going to be used for. And again, this is just to set the fund up. And we did receive the first check for $6,867.40. And that's the first of 18 payments we'll get over 18 years. So this will be a long process. So hopefully I'm not around when this ends. If I am.
Any public comments? Seeing none, council discussion? No? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes. We'll move on to our ordinances and go to our first reading. Our first reading.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 3654, supplemental budget ordinance number 6, to make appropriations for fiscal year 2022.
All right, Joe.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this one is to, Sam had requested this. This is to set up increased expenditures in the general fund for 2 nuisance properties, and the total expected cost is $37,500. And once these abatements are completed, Sam will send the amount over to the county auditor's office, and it'll be included on a tax duplicate, so we will receive the funds back. At the same time, it may not be this year, but it'll be coming back, because before the property can transfer, all the special assessments need to be paid, so at some point we will recoup the funds. So it's really a negative effect on the general fund because it's money in, money out.
Any public comments? Seeing none, council discussion? All right, we'll move on to our second reading.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Our second reading.
An ordinance repealing and replacing sections 13901, 13902, and 13903 of the codified ordinances of the City of Oxford pertaining to the Student Community Relations Commission.
Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Jessica?
I have no new information this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comments? Seeing none, council discussion?
I just wanted to say that we did this in order to streamline and get more participation from the commission and prevent lack of vote.
Well, and just for the sake of our audience, who seem to be students, it just the governance in Oxford is shared between students and residents and staffers. That we have a commission. Can you just provide a real quick introduction to this board, because it's kind of interesting how politics engages students in Oxford?
Yeah, absolutely. The Student Community Relations Commission is.
Can you speak up? It's hard to hear you.
The Student Community Relations Commission is a commission that is there for the students and the community to bring
I
forth.
think they still can't hear you.
If you raise it a little.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yep.
Okay. Student Community Relations Commission is a commission that is in town for the students and the community to bring questions, comments, and concerns to the city and come up with collaborative solutions to address things. For example, let's say that you have issues with renting properties, or you might have an issue inside of the property and you don't know where to go or what to do. That's something that you might bring to the Student Community Relations Commission. If there's an amenity that students and or the community want the city to have, that is something that you would bring to the Student Community Relations Commission. If there was an ongoing dispute of some sort between students and random community members, you would bring that to the Student Community Relations Commission, and it would get discussed. A resolution may get passed, and then out of that community or out of that commission, they would bring it to council, and then we would deliberate and perhaps pass a resolution or maybe even an ordinance. So
if you see a bird scooter around town, that was a student who thought our community would benefit from micromobility. The town, we didn't really have any experience with that, and the university was frankly very skeptical. But there was a process for discussing something and bringing it forward to council, and change happened. So Anyway, it's sometimes commissions get cool stuff done. Get accomplished.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. French,
Yes.
Mr. Prethridge,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ragu.
Yes. Passes, so we're our second reading.
An ordinance approving the final subdivision application and plat for Owl's Landing, Block A, with conditions.
Can we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Seconded.
Hey, Sam.
Hello again. This is the 39 lot first section of Owl's Landing subdivision on Brookville Road. So no new information from last time. I think the most interesting thing discussed from last time were the names of the streets before the Owl's names. So
Any public comments? Seeing none, council discussion?
Yeah, for the record, Snowy Lane, Screech Avenue, and Great Horns Drive. Anybody who's like in my generation, I was too old to watch Saved by the Bell, but some people are going to make it's about Screech Avenue. But I think it's cool. So.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Bracken,
Yes.
Mr. Ellerby,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. French,
Yes.
Mr. Prethridge,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Ragu.
Yes. And then we'll move on to remarks from city council and city staff, starting with Doug.
Thank you. I just have a couple of items. As Joe mentioned in his report to council on establishing a fund, we did receive our first settlement amount on the One Ohio Opioid Distributors Agreement. And but the letter we got from the Attorney General said that you'll receive direct payments, blah, blah, blah. Payment distribution will begin this week and continue on a rolling basis until completed. And then what Joe located today suggests that we're going to get those payments over 18 years, which is not in my mind on a very quick rolling basis, so I don't know. I might also share with you that we did sign on to two other settlements, one with Purdue Pharma and one with J&J. And I know we've been asked, what are the amounts we're going to get, and we have basically estimates, but they really, I kind of suggest that we wait and see what we get, and then we'll determine, we'll work with council to make recommendations. But this first bit of money, of course, is not a huge sum, and we'll see if we get more this year. And of course, we did share with you in the information that Joe gave you, the Exhibit A, which talks about the uses of the funds, and it listed community recovery strategies, as well as the other two broad strategies are sustainability and statewide innovation and recovery. Now, there's also funds that the state's getting through this foundation, and we might be able to access some of those funds. So more to come on these settlement figures. And the last thing I wanted to share with you is I was able to attend the Kettering Health Center dedication and ribbon cutting ceremony. This is for their new 15,000 square foot facility, which is on US 27 South on University Park Boulevard, corner of University Park Boulevard, US 27 South. Very beautiful facility, and got a chance to tour it after the ribbon cutting ceremony as well. So nice facility, welcome addition to the community. That's all I have this evening, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mike?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Joe?
Nothing, thank you.
Chief?
Nothing, thank you.
The other JJ's not here, right? Great. Sam?
nothing, thank you.
Jessica?
I just want to bring the public's attention to some August events that are coming up. So quite a bit coming up as we say goodbye to summer and gear up for the school year. On August 5th, we have our Red Brick Friday Dog Days event, which will be a giant sidewalk sale with all of our retailers and also includes a dog show and puppy parade. So everyone should come out for Dog Days. It'll be a lot of fun. The very next day is our Porsche Car Show, which is a lot of fun. If you like to see really fancy cars, you can come uptown in the morning and see all the Porsches. And then on the 26th is our final planned Red Brick Friday for the summer season, and that'll be our Miami Welcome Back event, the Miami University, the Red Brick Friday Streets and Eats event, And we were hoping to have several community organizations bring out tables, have restaurants bring out their food offerings, and kind of have it on the street that night. So we're really excited about our August lineup. Thanks.
Heather?
Nothing, thank you.
Chris?
I have nothing to add, thanks.
Brian?
If you haven't gone to the Porsche show, it's actually pretty awesome, and it just keeps getting bigger every year. But I have a question for some of the individuals in the audience. I don't, why are you guys here?
I'll say it, yeah. So, yeah, I'm John Ford. You want to say it? Go ahead.
So, we are.
Come to the microphone. We can't hear you. Come to the microphone.
Megan Thompson. I'm from Middleburg, Virginia. We are students, last year high schoolers, doing a summer program, 2 weeks at Miami University for the module Law and Politics. I want to be a future lawyer. And one of our field trips is to sit at the Oxford City Council meeting. Wow. So that's what we're doing, to get an insight on what's going on. So we love Oxford.
Well, I'm just going to take my time to say I'm glad that you guys are here. You know, there's a lot of wild stuff that's going on at the federal level and some of your guys' state levels. I can easily say that one of the most effective and satisfying things that you can do volunteering your time is to get in a local government, whether it's a commission, a committee, some sort of special interest group, or even running for office and sitting up here. Definitely think about that if you want to affect change in your community. So I'm glad to see you guys here, and hopefully this wasn't too painful.
I will build off what Councilor Ellerby has said, because it dovetails really nicely into what I was going to say, which is one of the really cool things that I got to do this weekend as part of my time both as a city councilor and as a commissioner. So part of city council, we have to serve on boards and commissions. I serve on the Historic and Architecture Preservation Commission. Nice. So I got to go to the National Alliance for Preservation Commissions conference in Cincinnati this weekend, and it was very cool. That's not something that I do for my normal job. And I learned more things in 8 hours than I've learned in a while. So now I know if you see a cool building, you can use it for affordable housing. You can use it to preserve the building with climate sustainability in mind. We learned a lot about what climate change is going to do to some of these old historic sites that we want to preserve. So like I said, I echo Councilor Elby. Thank you all for being here and being interested in what you're interested in, and that's awesome. So thanks.
I would like to talk about public art. Yes. So a few weeks ago while I was traveling, I got an email from Jessica to the Public Art Commission of Oxford, and I'm the City Council liaison and now the chair of that commission, asking if we were interested in a really cool idea. And the cool idea that she came up with was that we would take old yard signs, old political yard signs, and cut them in half and prime them with paint and have them used as canvases for people in the community to come up and do public art that we would then display temporarily on construction fencing. So you may have seen it already, but if you haven't, go uptown between the two parks and you'll see some fun, colorful art. I want to thank I want to thank Jessica for coming up with the idea, the Paco team for supporting it, and all of the volunteers that we had and the people who contributed to public art. And Mr. Dreisbach, I'd like to thank you as well for allowing us to use the fencing. And this is something that I hope we can do every summer. There's always some kind of construction going on, and then maybe it can happen in different parts of the city. So thank you.
I'm just sorry we didn't have something more contentious tonight. Sometimes we have a lot of debate, and sometimes we get into a lot of discussion, and mostly what we saw today is stuff that we've already seen before, and so there wasn't too much to talk about. So sorry it wasn't livelier, but hopefully you got something out of it. That's all.
Yeah, and two things, and I'm a person who teaches urban planning, and so I really do believe in the power of local government, but although it was kind of like we were working stuff that sounded boring today, we talked about the opioid crisis. We talked about how best to use our scarce urban lands to promote affordable housing. We didn't talk about climate, but what's one of the major priorities for the city of Oxford? Are Climate Action Steering Committee will be meeting on Thursday to help finalize a resilience plan, because climate change is here. So those big issues that sometimes you look to Washington and can find yourself very frustrated by your local government, we can make big changes locally. So it's cool, yeah, a local government is really cool. Just want to add one little thing. I'm sorry I missed last time's meeting, but I was traveling, and while I love to look at art and stuff, I end up looking at urban infrastructure. And I was inspired. I was in Europe, which is like looking at the past, but I stayed in places that had municipal composting, that had no single-use plastics, compostable plastic bags, incredible train service, renewable energy, incredible historic preservation, and public art and culture. And so we work on all those things here, but traveling's really fun, but I come back sometimes tired, but also jazzed up. Like, we gotta keep doing better, and we can do better. So yeah, ready to just sink my teeth into it.
And I would love to pick your brain, or so many people's brains, about how they view where the opioid problem in Oxford is going to go. Because I always go back to the quote, inch by inch, life is a cinch, right? And yard by yard, life is hard. Whenever we look at the really big problems of homelessness and substance abuse, it can feel really daunting. Looking at their graphs, when they say, oh, we had 6 or 14, it's like, oh man, we're so close. If we can just do 6 or 14, if we can just knock it down by 1. So I think that, ultimately what we need is this. We need universal health care. We need affordable housing. And I think that we are trying so hard on so many levels to take that inch by inch approach and try to make it better. So I'm really excited by all the things that we're doing and going to do. And let's take those numbers and make them 0, or those 75 families that don't have housing, let's go to 0. We have such a more tangible, real thing that we could actually solve these problems that are universal everywhere. So on that note, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.